Hi, I'm Paul Friedman. I founded the Marriage Foundation. Hopefully you have been watching these videos with this particular topic, which is how to save my marriage when my wife has given up. I'm going to address this, but before we do that, I've been doing this for a very long time. I used to be a divorce mediator. So I've seen it all, and we have been saving marriages, but much more than that, we've been turning them around completely, because marriage is supposed to be filled with love, harmony, and happiness, and it's doable. But because of the mainstream, which takes all of its cues from Western psychology, it's a total mess. And most marriages fail, statistically. I'm not making this up. And the ones that don't fail, most of them are, quite frankly, miserable. People stay together for the children. People stay together for their religion. But eventually, it's not enough. And so when I turn my practice around into helping people with their marriages, again, it's over 20 years now. My goal was not to help the children, but to help people be happy within their marriage, so divorce was out of the question. And we've been very successful at the Marriage Foundation. But we're also very honest and pragmatic. In fact, all of the methodologies that we use, that you'll find either in my books or that you'll find in your case in the Course for Men, it's methodical. It is based on things that you can wrap your arms around with, things that you can resonate with and see, oh yes, this will work. And then you try it and it does work. But here's the problem. The problem is that many men, hopefully you're not among them, come to us too late. They may have even tried marriage counseling. They've even tried individual counseling, which frankly doesn't work. Their success rate is dismal. And by the time they get to us, in some cases, the wife has already said, I'm through. Not I've given up, which is different, but I'm through. And they have left the marriage. They have turned their heart off completely. So here's the criteria. If that has happened to you, and you know if it has or not, if she's moved out, if she's already looking at other men, which is unusual, by the way, but it can happen. If she's having an affair, emotional or otherwise, chances are even we cannot help. I've trained hundreds of therapists into our approach to marriage, and I always ask them, look, you've met with men and women for years and years, because we try to get veterans. I say, how many times have you seen a marriage come back together when the wife has left? And they all go, doesn't happen. So I'm going to help you if that's not the case. If that is the case, then the suggestion is always the same. Accept it. Try to behave really well if you have children. Try to get along. But you have to move on. Now, if you're still living together and she said, I've given up, I don't want to try anymore, we've gone to counseling, blah, 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 it isn't over. So we need to understand, for you to move forward, there are certain things you need to understand. Number one is that the you who she has given up on, she hasn't given up on the marriage, she's given up on you, can be changed. And if she's saying, I've given up on you, she's giving you a loud and clear message that you do need to change, not just for her necessarily. Now you might say, no, I'm a great guy, I'm a great husband, I do all the right things, but you don't. You are like most people. You think you are a particular way because you haven't really looked at yourself carefully with that objective mirror. There is a practice that I've been doing for many, many years called dispassionate introspection. And I do this literally every single morning. I don't skip. And I take a look at how I behaved yesterday, how I thought, who I judge. My particular issue is my particular issue, but I take a look at whether it is still there, because I want to evolve. I want to always improve myself, which is a big deal, because when you're married, if you don't do that, you're stagnant. You're not loving your wife. If you're stagnant, you're just going through the motions. So this is rule number 1 if you want to save your marriage, even if your wife has given up. Rule number 1 is to take a look at yourself and start changing yourself. Now, that doesn't mean you change particular philosophies, because we don't behave in accordance with our philosophies. We really don't. We behave in accordance with our habitual thoughts. Our thinking is the springboard for our behavior. Our inner reactions to things, be they instinctive or self-trained, that's how we define ourselves. What your wife is looking for, and I'll tell you this because some of you are going to try to bypass this I have to change part. So I'll tell you, and you could experiment and you'll see it won't work. But I'm going to tell you anyway, so that you know that I've tried everything. We've tried everything. I've been doing this for a long time, and we have brought our Course for Men down to a very narrow, succinct process. So a lot of men go, okay, what do I do? Just tell me what I should do. And I've tried that. I've tried telling them what to do. And in fact, when I first started working with couples and individuals, what I did was I asked the question, why are you married? Why is your spouse married? The answer is very simple. To be happy every single day of your life, you should be happier than the day before. It is possible. You have free will. You're the one who controls your mind. So to be happier, all you have to do is constantly improve your inner and outer environment. It creates happiness. And for your wife, you should be doing your best every day to push the envelope of your thinking and make her happier. Not as you think she would be happier, but as she does, which means, number 1 is learning about yourself and making those changes. And number 2 is learning about her. Not by what she says, but you have to pay attention to what's behind the words, behind her actions, behind her feelings. And you have to determine, because people say, well, what's my role as a husband? What's my role? What do I do? What do I do? It depends on your wife and you. There is no pat answer. Now, generally, men are the protectors because of the gender influences on our psyche, but you never know. So you have to really pay attention. Now, this is where it breaks down. So men start doing that, but they can't keep up with it. They can't keep it up because the habit thoughts, which are the springboard for the actions, are so set that if you don't proactively kind of disturb your own consciousness, you're not going to make any progress. And your behavior will be insincere. And you know how women are. They're very intuitive, and that's a universal truth. And they'll see right through you. And even if you think you're doing everything right, they'll see right through you and they'll go, you're acting. You're just trying to win me over. And you go, yeah, I'm trying to win her over. Yes, but you have to do it by being the man, being the right guy. And you do that, and here's the whole crux of it. You do that through this process. I called it introspection. I developed a technique called the SO technique, where you're able to control your mind, and you have the tools that you can leverage to do so. And this is not a sales pitch. This is the reality. We're not taught growing up that, and it's no one's fault, no one really knows about this. This is pretty esoteric stuff. But you have a mind. You are not your mind. And that's the big breakdown, by the way, with Western psychology. They treat you as if you are the mind, which means you don't have any control over the mind. How can you control that which you are? You have a mind, and you have to learn how to master it. Now, we've evolved as a society in many ways, technically, socially. We have eradicated a lot of diseases. We're fighting a lot of diseases. We're learning more and more about physiology. But we're still primitive. Even technologically, we're still primitive in a lot of ways. Take a look at, and I'm not going off track here, I'm just trying to illustrate this so you grasp what I'm saying here. I'm saying we're primitive. And you might respond, well, are you kidding? We have nuclear power. Yeah. And we use this energy. As the atoms are split, the energy is released, and we use it to heat water. That's primitive. We are not able to capture yet that energy and run engines with it directly. So we are still primitive, even technologically. But when it comes to ourselves, we're really primitive, and we're held back because, of the same conditions that basically impaired Galileo from saying the world is not the center of the universe. They wanted to kill him for saying that. Well, the Western psychological world is this thing. It's like a church of psychology. And they don't want to open up to ideas such as, ironically, the fact that you're not the mind. Well, then what are you? You're the soul. You have a mind. You have a body. So the soul is joy. This is not a religious discussion, by the way. It's just the way it is. The soul is joy. Ask any meditator. What they do when they meditate is they stop the body from moving, they calm the mind down, and then the soul is revealed to them, and it's joy. The point is this. We're cutting edge here at the Marriage Foundation. And we can literally help you. Just watching these videos is going to help you a lot. So subscribe to the channel. But we can help you start to see marriage differently. See it for what it is. See yourself differently. See yourself as someone who has so much power that is totally untapped. But just take a look at the basics. My promise is the promise of marriage. That if you do what's correct, you will be happy all the time. You will feel love. In fact, I define it as ever-expanding love for the rest of your life. Ever-increasing happiness for the rest of your life. So just because your wife has given up, she's given up on present conditions. She has not given up on her marriage. She wants to be married just as much as you. But you have been blowing it. And I can't tell you why. There's a million ways you can blow it. But primarily, it always goes back to selfishness instead of selflessness. It always goes back to what about me instead of what about her. It always goes back to not knowing how to be married. Always goes back to that. Now, if you're smart, you get the course for men. If you're suspicious but curious, you might get one of my books. But you don't have a lot of time to waste. So the course for men is guaranteed. In fact, you don't even have to pay or commit to the first payment for 3 days. It's a trial period. So you can see how methodical everything is, how it's laid out and layered so that the end result is you're both happy. That's what you want. Now, some men take the course and they really shouldn't. They should be looking to the future. And, there's an intake form when you take the course that goes to a counselor. Be open when you sign up and fill out that intake form and be honest where your wife stands so that you're not going to waste your time on this. Other men say, you know what? After a few days, they go, I tried it and I'm still going to take the course because it works and I do need to change. That's up to the individual. We're here to help save marriages, but not just save them, completely turn them around. So I don't know the status with your wife. You may not be sure. It's true. We can't read other people's minds. And so we don't ever tell people what to do. In fact, we honestly never give advice. We show people how to reach their own conclusions. You have the wisdom. You're intelligent. You can do this. We're only here to show you how. I hope this has been useful. Again, I'm Paul Friedman, and I founded the Marriage Foundation after coming up with all these systems, all these ways, all these philosophies that actually do work. And I look forward to your liking this video, leaving a comment, and hopefully you're not going to lose your marriage. I do pray for you. And again, we're not a religious group, but I love God. I pray to God. I don't beg, but I'm going to share my prayer with you. Lord, I will reason, I will, and I will act. But guide thou my reason, will, and activity to the right thing that I should do. Now, I didn't invent that prayer, but it's a great one, isn't it? You want to hear it again? I will reason, I will, and I will act. But guide thou my reason, will, and activity to the right thing that I should do. That prayer has been a lifesaver for me many times, and I hope you take advantage of that. God bless and take care. Thank you for spending time with me.